Do you like music like this?
Great music all the time.
Or like this?
The music you love.
Maybe this.
Great music that makes you want to turn up the volume loud.
Or life track like this.
Especially where human life is concerned. Surely, sooner or later, people will realize that lives actually matter.
Then you're in the right place. Keep it locked to World Jam Global, where music is harmony.
Music 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Yeah, I'm a World Jam. Hotter than them.
See live schedule.
Hi, I'm Sandra Dunn, recording artist. And for real holy love, listen to Dr. Feelgood on World Jam Global.
Imperial Lounge presents an icon.
Reggae dancehall by the beach. To be held at Imperial Lounge, 2 to 14 High Street, Margate Seafront, Kent, CT9 180. To be held on the first Saturday of each month. Your host DJ Matt. Also rotating DJs, Roddy Boone, DJ Happy,
And Younger General.
Doors open 8 p.m. till late. Free entry all night. Music policy, reggae, dancehall, and a touch of soul. On the first Saturday of each month. Reggae dancehall by the beach. At the Imperial Lounge Margate. Do remember, you can also get VIP and Shisha booking. More info on the World Jam Global website. That's www.worldjamglobal.com. Also www.imperialloungemargate.co.uk.
See you there.
It's the right thing you doing.
Sunday, May 27, 2018, GDS Entertainment proudly presents
Grooving on the Hudson.
That's right, Grooving on the Hudson Memorial Weekend Celebration. Music played by Road International, Selector Oxtail alongside King Shiloh International. All aboard the elegant Paddle Wheel Queens, One World's Fair Marina. Boarding 6 p.m. sharp from Flushing Queens Certified Shea Stadium. And Miss Marina will be selling 7 p.m. sharp. Also,
For tickets, People's Choice Furniture, Bronx, New York. Doris Restaurant, Queens, New York. G's Restaurant, Queens, New York.
Also,
WorldJamGlobal.com.
Also, complimentary dinner prize and surprises.
Come party with us.
Let's just take it slow. Sailing on the summer breeze. 1, 2, 3, swing it.
Do you have an old sound tape or your favorite cassette tape that you want converted to CD or MP3 format? Do you need a demo CD, radio ad, a DJ, or even a sound system for your wedding, birthday, or special occasion? Then why not get in contact with KTR Records on 07931 152 448 or check out our website on www.ktrrecords.com. We have been in business since 2004 and also undertake community projects. So for your remixes, dubplates and all your sound editing needs, why not contact KTR Records, official sponsor of World Jam Global Radio. KTR Records, coming your way.
Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime.
I want to say a big good evening going out to each and every single one of you right across the globe. Saturday night at 6 o'clock, it's time for Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio.
Time, I paid for my crime. Back in the day, I didn't really care about the system. It was all about survival. It was do or die. I had too many rivals. I was too young and foolish to stay in school. I learned
as Donald Trump goes on national TV and takes a pop shot at the UK.
Very quick on my feet, I was swimming in.
We're back looking at police brutality
the street. I was
in the United States of America, and our guest today is Donna Hayes, grandmother, activist, and advocate.
I'm a changed man.
The title and the theme of today's show is A Grandmother's Fight for Justice.
Life is too short to spend it all in jail. Trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my.
We got news for you, Mr. Trump. You need to sort out your own backyard before you start chomping in ours.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
But another young man lost his life.
Paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
And we're going to be looking into the story of Quanis Hayes.
I was a drug dealer so much.
Stay with me.
But I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had to do. That's why I'm telling my story to you and you. I had to repent. I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid shit. Now sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb. I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters.
The opening statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison.
Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime, pay for my crime.
If you're watching this and you're getting the live stream, then please share it with around the world. Share it with everybody you know. Share it in any group that you belong to.
So I can get my life on track.
Justice for Quanis Hayes.
Live like an
right here on World Jam Global Radio. My message with your host, Kirby Julian, on Issues Today.
Worldwide. There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women.
In just a few moments,
over the street,
we hear from the grandmother of Quanis Hayes, Donna Hayes, grandmother, activist and advocate.
Man, don't need no gun in my
true warrior.
About being no gangster, life is too short to spend it all in jail.
And we're gonna hear how a young man's life was taken away so sadly from a family who are still grieving at his loss.
Did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got high on my own supply. I'm not proud of what I had.
You can join us on www.worldjamglobalradio.com.
Admit, I was doing all kinds.
You can get us on TuneIn.
Now sit back and think it over since I've gotten older. The life
you can follow us live on Facebook.
My brain was so numb, I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common. I was the real Terminator, much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'd chew you up and spit you out like a real alligator, especially all you haters. Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time, already did my time. I paid for my crime, already did my time.
The opening statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison.
That's right, share it. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to share this stream live across the world as we fight for justice for Quanis Hayes.
Living here.
Story coming up from his grandmother, Donna Hayes.
Trying to cope with this living here.
Just over 2 minutes from now.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Trying to cope with this living here. This living hell. This living hell. This living hell. Already did.
You can post your questions in the chat room on www.worldjamglobalradio.com.
Our Father who art in heaven.
Or listen up and post your questions right here on Facebook Live.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Don't forget you can catch us every Saturday right here at 6 o'clock.
For thine is the
British Standard Time.
The glory forever and ever. Amen. Enter my crowd, enter my crowd, enter my crowd, enter my crowd.
Check your time zones for all the various matching times. Synchronize.
All those drive-by killings, stop them.
I think it's 10 a.m. PAC Pacific. I think Eastern, it's 1 p.m. your time.
And cast the first.
Central, it's
I'm trying to get this
12 p.m. I think your time.
Get my life on track and have the right to vote and live like an ordinary citizen again. This is my message to
well, my friends. We are going out live right across the world.
Worldwide.
My name is Kervin Julian. Yours is World Jam Global Radio, and the program's called Issues Today. Hang tight. We're about to get serious. I'd like to wait no further, take no longer to introduce her to my guest, my precious guest. And it's been a long time in the making to get her onto this show, but we've eventually got her here. And it's none other than Donna Hayes. Good afternoon, good morning, Donna Hayes.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay. Well, that's as well as can be expected. Donna, just for our audience, could you just share some of your life, who you are, what you do, where you are, so they can get an understanding of who you are before we start to talk about what's going on with the show?
I'm a grandmother. I'm a grandmother of 21. It would have been 21 if Qantas was still alive. I work with Pacific Northwest Family Circle. We're a support group and advocate for other people. I came into this group behind Irene Kalanji. She lost her son 2 years ago in January, and Sweetheart just came and approached us. And she brought along with her Shiloh, that's my little fighter. And I'm from Chicago. They're not originally from Portland, Oregon. So I brought my family here. So the tragic seemed like it's pretty much on me because I brought my whole family here. And I have 5 kids. And this has been a traumatic experience for me. And I am, for Pacific Northwest Family Circles, I'm considered a first responder. So I reach out to, when I hear about a shooting, the first thing I do is try to locate the family, and I reach out to them because I understand what they're going through. When this first happened, you pretty much spin around in circles because you don't know what to do. And I reach out to them. I let them know, first of all, don't let the press in because they'll destroy your family. Instead of getting the truth, all they'll do is destroy your family. I love cats. That's one of my things. That's what my cat, when I'm upset, is up under me because she knows that I'm going through, and she keeps me calm. I'm pretty much an angry grandmother because this is how I do what I do because of my anger. It keeps me settled and pointed in the right direction. And I'm not sure. I'm 58 years old, and this I was tossed in. I used to follow, people being shot, and I reposted on Facebook. But I never thought it would happen to me. This is something that, as long as I know my family, nothing like this has ever happened. So this was truly a shock and tossed me into being an advocate, being an activist. And so I'm out protesting. I'm at meetings. I'm at court hearings. I'm at all sorts of things just because of this. And today is going to be like a busy day for us. We got a vigil and I got a meeting to attend. So today was, people celebrating Cinco de Mayo, and I'm not. I don't have time.
And
I do have a sister.
You have a sister as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Donna, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, and sharing with us who you are, where you're from, and what your family is about. And we've got together because on February the 9th of this year was the anniversary.
Last year.
This year was the first anniversary of Quanis Hayes' death, or as some people have put it, execution. And it's been over a year since the police took his life. And before we talk about that fateful day in which Quanis was to lose his life at a very young and ripe age of 17, and I can't help but repeat that, 17, not even the beginning of his life, so to speak. Let us try and get an understanding of what type of a young man Quanis was growing up into, what type of a child and a grandchild he had started his life as. So just so the audience can get some idea, a picture of who Quanis was, his personality and his character. Tell us a bit about Quanis from his early ages. As his grandmother, it must have been the proudest moment of your life when your daughter called to say, "Hey, Mama, I've had a baby boy."
Oh, well, I was here. No, she didn't. She came here pregnant. She didn't call me. She came in person and told me she was pregnant. And at that time, believe it or not, me and her was pregnant at the same time. I had a late in life child. And I didn't, when I went to the hospital, I didn't want her to go to the hospital. I didn't want to see what labor was all about. I wanted her to experience this on her own. I didn't want to give her fear. But I know when she had that child, I had 2 grandchilds before but these are 2 kids that I didn't have a whole lot to do with because they were all the way on the other side of the country. And this one, when he was born, he was the one that called me Granny. I always wanted to be called Granny as a grandmother. And that's the first time I ever heard it came from his mouth. And this little boy was a dancer as a little kid. He loved to dance, and that's all he did was dance, dance, dance. I can ask him, name me, I'd tell him, show me how to do this dance, and he could show me right away. And sports, oh my God, this little boy loves sports. And everybody wanted him on their team because he was great. He was a natural athlete. He played all the traditional sports like basketball, football, baseball, and then he played non-traditional sports like lacrosse and a couple of others. He was just good at it. And he was a hero to his little sibling. He was the brother of 5. He missed out on one because he died before that one was born. But he was their hero. Whenever there was a problem, they didn't run to their mother or their grandmother. They went to their brother. And it was just overall just funny. He loved to make you laugh. Him and his sister was at odds at all times. But that's how siblings were. But he was a kid that everybody loved. He was funny. He loved to make you laugh. And he's a well-missed child now. You know, he got little siblings constantly asking us, It's Moose coming back. We called him Moose. When he was born, he looked like Bullwinkle. And it was the funniest looking baby. He grew into his looks, but we called him Moose. And I didn't start calling him Quantis until after he was dead. He was Moose from the moment he was in the hospital until he died. He was Moose to us.
That sounds so close. What sort of a student was he at school? Did he pick up his stuff well? Was he doing well with his grades?
He was not a great student. He loved sports, and he kept his grades just enough to play sports. He didn't care for school whatsoever. And when they took him out of sports because his grades had dropped, his school just went further and further down the hole. He needed the sports just to keep his grades at any type of way. But school was not his number one feat.
What was he like with his friends in the community? How did he interact with the community as a whole?
If you met him once, you loved him. I remember we're on a bus, and all of a sudden this grown man comes up to Moose and says, "Hey, Moose." And I'm looking at this man like, "You a grown man. What are you talking to my grandson?" He's about 6. And he comes and he describes his interaction with Moose. So I understood that, when people met him, they fell in love with him. We would have, when he was probably about 10, 11-year-old children knocking on the door, asking for him to come out and play. He was lovable. People to date, as I'm going out and tell me, "Oh, I knew Moose. He was known in this community, and he's a missing piece of this community.
So he was a very, very popular individual indeed.
Very, very popular. People loved him.
So, what was he like as far as the law was concerned? Was he somebody that was known to the police? Did he get into trouble at all?
No, he was not known to the police. When his grades dropped, his mother had a missing child report on him. That was the only thing they knew. Yeah, let me take that back. The February, he was caught sitting in a stolen car with his friends. But he was not known to the police. He didn't have a juvenile record.
So he had no relationship with the police. He wasn't known to them. He wasn't a local villain. He wasn't a repeat offender. They didn't have to keep coming to the house to come and chase him or find him or arrest him. He hadn't done juvie, never done jail, or never done anything like that.
None of that.
So when
the way they described him was so wrong.
And we're going to come to how they described him a little bit later on, because it's one of the reasons why I start the show off the way that I start the show off when we're doing cases like this. Is because 9 times out of 10 we only really get to hear what the police let out, what the media send out, and we only get to hear the negatives of the individual as they try to criminalize them in order to justify their kill. The guy that you're sending, the guy that you're describing to us now, on air, live, going right across the world, is 1,000,000 miles away from the guy that the police shot dead and decharacterized in their justification. And we are going to come to that. But I just want you to tell me a little bit more. What are some of your fondest memories of Quantis over the years? You know, Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that. What are some of your fondest memories?
My fondest memory was first him calling me Granny, hearing it first time coming from his mouth. And, he kept me updated with music. Okay, being my age, I am not up to date with the music that they play today. When with his loss, I'm dealing with the 1980s music. That's where I left off, and that's where I'm stuck at. He kept me updated, and I love that about him. It made me, when we played with the other grandkids and we did music, each person be able to pick a song. I knew songs that I could pick, and they will all be surprised about how she know this song when just me and Moose would smile about it, because he showed me. He kept me updated.
Wow.
And, you know, we spent most of our lives, me and my daughter, we was off and on together, lived together off and on. So he grew up in my house. And like I said, I had a daughter late in life, so his auntie, I think, was the cutest thing, was he used to call her auntie. She made him call her auntie. She's 6 months different in age. And his mother got mad, and she told her to stop calling her auntie, call her Mimi. She's just 6 months different. So they were friends. And I had two grandkids and my daughter. They were all in the same age bracket. And Moose was the youngest. And I remember him asking me how come he got to wait to become 13, because he wanted to be 13 like the other kids. And I told him he just happened to be the youngest. And he was so waiting to be 18. Everybody was going to be 18 the year he died. And he was waiting on it. He wanted to be 18. He wanted to say he was grown. And I kept telling him, all you can buy is lottery tickets. You can't even buy cigarettes now. So these are the things I remember most about him.
And I'm sure as you and as a family gathered in the time after he was sadly taken from you, you've all had a chance to reminisce and share some of those memories with one another. And I would have imagined it's given you some great strength and great comfort at times.
Yes.
When all seems so negatively, ridiculously torn away from you. Donna, if it pleases you, I want to take a trip onto that fateful day. First of all, tell me, how did you get to hear that your grandson, his life had been taken? How did you get to hear the news?
I was the first to receive the news, and I received it on Facebook. And I tried calling the police, and they just wouldn't give me any information. And I have a very, very bright little niece, and I called her and asked her to help me, because we didn't want to go and tell his mother without truly knowing what was going on. And they just wouldn't give us any information. And we were talking, by that time, it was maybe 6 in the evening. He got killed like 6 in the morning. And we still, 12 hours later, we hadn't got any information. So we had to get his mother, and she had to call the police. They still wouldn't tell us. And we had to go down. So it took us 12, almost 13 hours to find out he was dead. And like I told you, he had been caught by the police that one night sitting in the car with his friend. So they fingerprinted him. They knew who he was, and they knew our telephone number because they called me and told me they were sending him home to me. So they knew his number. They knew his mother's number. They told her what had happened, and they called me and told me, because she told him he's going home with me. And 12 hours later, that's when we found out, and we had to fight for that information.
Tell us a little bit about why the police were pursuing Quanis in the first place.
Well, I love that story. They want to say that he robbed this man and took his jacket and his food stamp card. And what we find that so hard to believe is that he did this to take some homeless man. The man was homeless. To take this man's jacket when this child wore brand name gym shoes. All his life, he had on brand name gym shoes, and as an older teen, he wore designer underwear. I can't imagine him taking some smelly old jacket and food stamps. His mother has been receiving food stamps since before he was born. So he knew the workings of a food stamp card. You had to have a PIN number. That was first of all. And second of all, it takes less than 30 seconds to cancel a food stamp card. Qantas wouldn't have took a food stamp card, especially without a PIN number. I wouldn't take a food stamp card without a PIN number. And there's nothing mentioned in the police reports or the grand jury the transcripts, and I read them both, of a PIN number. So in my heart, they just planted that there so they can say, yes, he's the one that did it. And the car prowling, the same thing. I'm not going to say he was not around those cars or looking in somebody's car. I'm not just going to say that. But, you know, he got coins, old coins in his pocket. These are things that's easily planted. The gun he didn't even pull a gun. It was somewhere near him. That's what they say. And it was a play gun. This is a little black child, and a little black child from a black family that knew about police and police violence. He was well taught. Police need to see your hands at all times. See your hands. See, you don't reach for nothing. They need to see your hands. Whether you was a male or female, I got mixed grandkids that are taught the same thing because they're going to be seen as a little black child. And he was taught. He had uncles. They taught him. I taught him. His mother taught him. So when they said that he was reaching for a play gun at a real gunfight, we don't believe that. That's not realistic.
Let's ask a couple more seconds because there's some stuff that I really want to go into very shortly. Did Quanis have any history of using drugs?
Oh, he smoked weed, and then with his peer group, they probably did do drugs. When I was young, we did things too. He got a peer base. I mean, they did. I knew he smoked weed.
Okay.
But in the other things, I won't say he didn't do it. He had a peer group. They did things.
So,
but
when the police, sorry, Donna, when the police said that he was coming out of this alcove, do you know what he would have been doing in that alcove in the first place, and why the police had he run there to get away from the police? Do we understand? Do we have
hiding?
Okay, and do we know why he was hiding?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not going to say he didn't do anything, but hiding. I know that's what he was doing. Okay. Quanis, no matter what, he fought and everything else, but he still had scary moments.
Yeah.
One of our things we talk about was, and actually got it on film, where he was at this doctor's office. And the doctor was trying to give him a shot, and he kept saying, nope, I'm not going to take it. He kept getting up, and his mother screaming at him, sit back down, Moose, and take this shot. And he acted like he was going to take it, and he'd get back up because he was scared of the shot. So the way we drilled in police into his head, he was probably scared of them, too.
So In one report, it says a series of unfortunate decisions led Quannis Hayes, an unarmed, so it's accepted that he was unarmed, 17-year-old, to a fatal encounter with Portland police in February 2017. It goes on to say that the deadly shooting has since inspired protest and criticism of police, even as the officers involved have been cleared of wrongdoing. How do you feel about the officers being cleared of wrongdoing?
It was one officer in Portland. We had no doubt that he was going to be cleared because as you look at Portland's history, they only had one police officer that I could find that was indicted for anything, and it wasn't a police shooting, like shooting a citizen. He shot his friend at a camping trip and lied about it.
So
that's the only reason why Portland, anybody in this country indict people, because they caught him in a lie, and everybody caught him in the lie.
Before we go on to investigate or discuss the circumstances in which Quannis was to die, let's take a look at the circumstances or the alleged crime that he was alleged to have committed, which resulted in the police looking for him in the first place. This car robbery, okay? Well, it wasn't a car robbery. It was meant to have held up a guy in a car.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that. First and foremost, the witness, the victim that was robbed, what did he have to say, if anything?
Okay. Before the police actually got him to testify, 24 hours later, he went into his friends' one of the rooms that his friends lived in, and he was telling his friends that the child he seen looked like a child, didn't look like a grown man, and he felt bad. But on the grand jury transcript, he said, "I wish he was dead. I'm glad he dead." That sounds like two different people.
Yeah.
And I've been Portland to cover, like I said, Portland covers. They've been covering their butt for years, and
so let's look at the robbery itself. So it's suggested that Quannis has entered into a vehicle and robbed this man at gunpoint. Was this man who was robbed, was he a man, a boy, a juvenile, a youth? What was he?
A grown man. Quannis, he weighed 135 pounds, soaking wet. He was doing good. He was a little guy.
Yeah, the pictures show that.
Not a lot of weight.
He was very slim from the look of the pictures that I can see.
Tiny guy.
Yeah. So this man is sitting in his car and he claims, and again the claim, how soon after Quannis was shot dead did they bring forth this evidence that this is the reason why they were looking for him? Was it straight away?
Okay. It was straight away. The man said something from my understanding, that he said something to the person that runs a hotel, and they called the police.
Okay, so the story goes that Quannis was meant to have entered into this man's vehicle while he was sat there and held him at gunpoint and robbed him of, what did he rob him of? What were the things that were alleged that Quannis took from this man?
Food stamp card and a jacket.
A food stamp card and a jacket.
And a jacket.
Okay, and
that's it. That's all. Because Quannis this man said that he knew what guns were. How he was an expert about guns. But if he was an expert, how come he didn't know that was a play gun?
Yeah.
They said he had was a play gun.
Okay, so did the jacket, was the jacket ever found?
Yeah, they said it was on. He had it on.
who Quanis had it on him. So Quanis had the jacket that was taken from the man on him.
That's what they say.
Okay, that's what they say.
We haven't got evidence. They haven't gave us clothes or anything of his back. So we don't know what that boy had on.
Okay. So it's quite possible that Quanis could have tried to rob this man. And it's quite
possible. It's quite possible.
And, it's possible that Quanis used a toy gun to do it with.
It's quite possible.
But the man who was robbed said that he was an expert in weapons and knew his guns.
And he said, and it looked like if Quanis sat there all the time that man sat there, he should have been able to figure out that's not a real gun. If he's such an expert about guns, as long as he said that him and Quanis stayed together, he should have figured it out.
And did they ever give you an idea of how long Quanis and this man spent in the car together?
I'm not sure. It did. It's in the grand jury transcripts. But how he sat there long enough to search the man's car and insist that the man drives him around. The man was able to explain to him that he had no gas in his car.
So he couldn't do
the back and the front.
Okay, so he couldn't do the driving around. So Quanis searched the car and got the food stamp. Apparently, the food stamp book, PIN number,
food stamp card, and his jacket.
And the jacket. Okay. So at that point, what is it that they suggest that Quanis did? Because I would have imagined that there would have been some time elapsed between the robbery and the police arriving on the scene.
Okay, they arrived on the scene, and then it was a car prowling at, I'm going to say about a block and a half away at the veterinarian place. Okay. And the woman said that he was there and took her lunch and his some coins and things out at the house. And so police was called for that. And they realized that maybe they both was together and they combined forces. And then it was said that a window was broke out of another person's house when somebody could be hiding in there. So they put all of this together.
Okay, but none of these other reports included a man with a weapon.
The first one did.
Yeah, the first one did, but none of these other reports included a man with a weapon.
No.
So there was no reason at that time for them to put the two people together as one.
No, they said because of what he had on a hoodie, and so they said it was a hoodie and all. Well, two of them anyway.
Okay. So my concern is if he was that desperate to rob somebody in a car by using a weapon, he's now getting into houses or in other properties. Surely
and I didn't understand why he didn't pull the gun on that woman.
But that's my
if
question.
If he was pulling guns on people, why didn't he pull the gun on the woman? Yeah. She coming out of a pet store. That's the person more likely got money.
Yeah. So these things are just not adding up at the moment, are they?
No, it don't add up. I've been telling people forever, this child knew about a food stamp card. He wouldn't have took a food stamp card. I staked my life on that. He wouldn't have took that food stamp card.
Okay, there's a couple of things.
It takes less than 30 seconds to get rid of. Cut it off.
Now, the police often use I was in fear of my life, or I was protecting myself and my officers. And I do believe that this particular officer, in a full and intent statement, made large claims to how convinced he was that Quanis was in possession of a firearm.
No, he not just in possession, but was reaching for it.
Yeah. No. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get to the part that he was reaching. Right. What I'm saying is, this officer was convinced that the perpetrator, the culprit, the suspect that they were pursuing, the one that he was asking to get down on the ground, who was coming out of the alcove, was definitely armed and dangerous.
Yes, that's what he said he believed.
Okay, so as Quanis exited the alcove, he was instructed by the officer to get down on the ground, right?
He was instructed by officers. We're going to put an S on the end of it. It was 17 officers there. Make it 18, including him.
And there was one of them with them AR-15 rifles.
He was getting conflicting information.
Yeah.
One said, get on your knees, crawl. Another one said, put your hands up. I read this from the transcript.
Okay. So he was getting So he's getting several instructions from multiple officers all at the same time, and he is trying to comply.
Yes.
Okay. So
in fear.
So in what you've read and what you've heard as far as the transcripts are concerned, right? Did it sound like Quanis was following the orders that he was being instructed to?
According to the transcript, no. And I couldn't understand how could he.
Okay. Could you elaborate on that? Explain to us what you mean by that, please, Donna.
Okay, you have one officer telling you to crawl. Another one officer telling you, put your hands up. Another officer telling you to walk on your knees to him with your hands up. I mean, he's getting, and police here don't talk to you. They scream out orders. So you got someone screaming and another one screaming and another one screaming. You can get confused.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. Seeing as these officers were so convinced that Quanis had robbed this man at gunpoint, was in possession of a firearm, and was dangerous as well as armed, right? Did any of the instructions, according to the transcript, right, did any of the instructions consider asking him, A, where the weapon was, and B, surrender the weapon?
No. And if he's crawling, they could see if he had a weapon.
So I suppose what I'm trying
if he's up on his knees, they could see a weapon.
So what I'm trying to get at is if you was in pursuit of an individual who you were convinced was carrying a weapon, and you are there were 17 officers there, and they were all carrying their weapons, right? So most of them would have had their guns trained on him.
Yes.
Right? Pointing at him.
Yeah.
Telling him to walk, crawl, run, jump through hoops or whatever, but they would have all had their guns out because they're in pursuit of a guy who's armed and dangerous. So
yes.
Why wouldn't your first question be, put the gun down, drop the gun? Where is the gun? If you have a weapon, can you throw it out? Would that not be the first questions you'd expect these officers who are in pursuit of an armed and dangerous felon who has just robbed somebody at gunpoint and they were in fear of their lives? Would you not think one of the first things that they would do was ask him to relieve himself of that gun?
Ask him, at least ask him, do you got a weapon? I done heard him come to a car and ask, is there a weapon in the car? Is there something we should know about? They didn't ask him that. Okay,
so they don't ask him for a gun. They just tell him to walk, crawl, jump, get on your knees, crawl on your face, whatever. But there's a whole series of instructions being given to him by these multiple officers, at least 17 of them on the scene at this time. All of them armed and aiming their guns at him, including this officer, the one who eventually shoots him, who has one of these big super-powered rifles.
He got an AR-15.
Yeah.
And just to let you know, he wasn't even invited to the gunfight. He has, his wife is a 911 operator.
Wow.
So he got his information from his 911 wife that something was going on. He wasn't even invited.
So he wasn't one of the he wasn't one of the
he wasn't even part of the whole group. He came along. They want to say that, you know, they needed somebody that had lethal weapons, because a lot of them had non-lethal weapons. But he wasn't invited. They didn't call and say, hey, send me a lethal weapon person. They didn't do it. He just showed up.
Wow.
He wasn't invited. He showed up. And you know this is not his first shooting.
No, I'm not aware of that.
He shot at, they say he shot at this man named Merrill Hatch, a man with a telephone receiver. They said they thought was a gun.
Wow.
And he got killed. And this man, his name is Andrew Hurst. That's the police officer that shot my grandson. He used an AR-15 in February of that year and didn't get training for that gun until 6 months later. I look up things. You know, I'm a reader. And so I looked up and found out this man wasn't even trained to use the gun when he was shooting at that man. But he was trained. By the time he shot my grandson, he was trained.
So he had previously shot at somebody who he thought had a gun, and it turned out they didn't have a gun. And now here he is shooting at Quannis Hayes, assuming that he's got a gun.
Yes.
Now, in reading his statements, which was read out through some of the media articles that were released shortly afterwards, he makes some claims as to how assertive and persistent he was in getting Quannis to follow his orders as he aimed his AR-15 rifle at him, right?
He wasn't the only one giving orders.
No, he wasn't the only one giving orders, but he has a clear statement as to a list of instructions that he gave Quannis while he had his AR-15 rifle pointed at him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we're saying is, along with this uninvited shooter, right, there were 16 other officers with their guns, lethal or non-lethal, aimed at Quannis, right, shouting instructions at him at the same time. But yet, has anybody done an area picture to show where this officer was in comparison to the others, and whose voices Quannis was more likely to hear the most?
In all actuality, Venus that's Quannis's mother, has to get a lawyer just to find out what happened to her son. People think that, you know, people suing for some money. She's not suing for no money. She's trying to find out what happened to her son. And right now, we don't know what happened. They keep everything. It's a battle to get any information from them.
So this is what I'm trying. I'm trying to paint a picture here. So here you've got a young man who's exited an alcove because he's been pursued by officers. He's surrounded by 17 officers, all with weapons
and a dog.
Right? And for me, what I'm trying to ascertain here is what was the distance between each of those officers and Quannis, and whose voices was he likely to have been hearing the most? Because the officer with the AR-15 rifle, Anthony Hurst, whatever his name is, Andrew Hurst, right? He may well be convinced that he's right, that he was giving all of these instructions, and he was concerned that Quannis might not have been responding as he was asking him to do. But if what we're saying is, and what you're saying is, and if what the evidence is suggesting, that there was 17 voices pointed at him, number one, it would have been confusing. But number two, those that were closer to him, he would have probably heard more or more clearer.
And reality, if you have so many people talking to you, you don't hear the closest one or the first one. It's a multiple of sound.
Yes.
So ain't no telling what that child might heard.
So let's just clarify this. First and foremost, it wasn't a controlled situation.
No, they had a sergeant that came to visit to see what, because since it is his area, came to see what was going on there. And he admitted that there were a lot of people giving orders, even though each one say, oh, it was only me. Another one, it was only me. But he said it was multiple.
Right, so now you've got all of these voices shouting at you.
Mm-hmm.
You're confused. You're not sure which one you should be listening to. This one tells you to do this. And you're going to be scared. You've got 17 guns pointing at you. Right? Here's my question. Right? Here's my question. Because they are absolutely... Andrew Hurst tries to convince, through his statement, that when Quanus Hayes reached for his waistband, he was convinced that Quanus Hayes was reaching for his gun. Correct? That's Andrew Hurst's version. But here's the thing. It later transpires that the gun that they apparently found in the bush close by was a fake toy gun. Right?
Yes.
Now, unless you're an absolute lunatic, who would reach for a fake gun with 17 real guns pointing at you, knowing that these officers are desperate to shoot?
And then add this one thing to it. Normally, if someone reached for their waistband, everybody shoots.
Yeah.
Only one shot. He seen something everybody else didn't see. I wonder how. And he's, from my understanding, facing Quanus. These others all around. So you got a person on the side. So if he's reaching for his waistband, the person on the side would see it. How come he is the only one that see it?
Yeah. So you've got 17 officers surrounding Quanus Hayes. And you're quite right. If he was reaching for his waistband and there was a real threat, then there would have been at least 17 shots. At least. If not many more.
Pow, 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 pow. Instead of 2 to the chest, 1 to the head.
I'm quite shocked that none of the other officers, because there is no other statements apart from his that says that Quanus was reaching for his waistband.
And you know what? And out of all the officers that testified, one refused.
You had an officer that refused to testify?
Yeah. Yes. Wouldn't testify at the grand jury. He said, I didn't see anything.
Wow. What questions does that leave you asking, Donna?
What did you see?
Because it's
you don't want to, because that thin blue line they talk about, because if he say something against Hurst, the other officers would torture him. So just don't say nothing.
So in other words, he doesn't want to lie.
He don't want to lie, and he don't want to join forces with the beast that shot him.
So let's just go back to the matter. So this officer, Andrew Hurst, shouts out all of these instructions, and then he claims, just as Quanus was reaching for his waistband, he fires the lethal shot that takes Quanus's life.
3 lethal shots.
3 lethal shots.
2 to the chest, 1 to the head.
How soon after he shot Quanis did they find the toy gun?
I'm not sure. They said when they went to handcuff him after he's dead, they found it. And one of the grand jury asked them, did they find it before all of this? Because if I know my grandson well enough, if he had that play gun, he got rid of that play gun a long time ago.
Anybody with common sense.
He has a family that drills certain things into their head.
Yeah.
And one of them things is you don't get caught with no gun.
Yeah. But let's just say, for example, that he just didn't have time to get rid of it before the police had caught up with him, right? You still have to go back to the fact that not even a fool, you'd have to be on a death wish to be reaching for a toy gun while 17 officers were pointing their guns at you, right?
And he wasn't on a death wish. He looked forward to being 18.
So for me, you got an officer who was uninvited to the party, whose wife was a 911 receiver, who lets him know that there's a situation taking place, and he turns up. He turns up with his AR-15 rifle, right, and becomes one of the 16, 17 officers that are now shouting instructions at a young man who's just exited an alcove after hiding from the officers who were pursuing him for what appears to be a series of localized issues that have just taken place. Starting with a robbery at gunpoint at a car, 2 additional attempts to rob or burgle or take from someone's house or whatever.
Car prowl.
Car prowling. And he's hiding in an alcove, and for the crime that he had just committed, had he committed it, have you any idea of what the likely outcome of a sentence might have been?
Well, he would have went to, you know what, this is Oregon. He'd have done a measure, it would have been a measure, what they call a measure 11 crime, and he would have been sentenced as an adult.
You see, I can't
if they had gave an opportunity.
You see, I'm trying to work on trying to lay the foundation, get an understanding of why a police. Mind you, it's ridiculous because we know on numerous occasions the police have opened fire on unarmed, innocent individuals who are not even in pursuit of crime, so they don't need no excuse to shoot a brother in the streets anymore.
You know.
Sometimes
you can do it with a camera. They can have a camera that shows everything, and it doesn't make a difference.
So there's the next question. Did any of the officers in this particular scenario have a body cam on?
That's something we do not know. And, you know, if they had a car pointed in that direction, they definitely have pictures from their car. But this is something we don't know yet.
So has anybody tried to get hold of the dash cam footage or the
that is
the
something
cam?
that's what she has the lawyer for, working to get all of this information, because all she want to know is what happened to her baby.
And that's the saddest thing, really, because it's fine for the police to criminalize and decharacterize, but as a parent, all you want to know is, how did your child die? Why did your child die?
That's it. Why did your child die?
Do you know?
That's all she want to know. Then, you know, they drug test Quanis, but they didn't drug test the police officer.
So in the drug test that they did on Quanis, did they find any substances in his blood system?
Yeah, they found marijuana and a couple of other things. Okay. And, you know, and they brought that to the grand jury. Now, what I don't understand is why. That had nothing to do with the police officer shooting him. If that man couldn't drug test him from a distance and know that he had these drugs in his system, It didn't need to be in the grand jury. What they did was when they entered that, they tainted the grand jury. They made the grand jury thought, oh, drug infested man, that's why he shot him. And I want to know, how did he know Quantas had drugs in him?
He wouldn't have known. He would have had no idea.
Not at all.
And he wouldn't have been close enough to have been able to see any behavioral issues that might have pointed him in that direction either.
Nope.
So,
but that's what the grand jury was given.
So now Quantas is laying on the ground. He's been shot dead.
Handcuffed.
Handcuffed. So what do you know about what do you know about what took place after that? What was the next thing that you're aware of that took place?
Other than, I believe that he was still alive. From my understanding, he was still alive, and they just let him die.
Wow.
Why take him to the hospital? Let him die. That's their motto. They do this to quite a few people here in this state.
So, in other words, were there any calls for first responders, paramedics?
No, and they didn't did what they call life-saving techniques. No, none of that was done. It was just let him lay there.
And so, therefore, there was no response to see if they could resuscitate or save that life.
None. They let a child die. They took a valuable member from our family because they didn't care. It was just another little black child that they're done with. We don't have to worry about this little black child anymore.
So in your pursuit...
And, this is a very white city. And it's a very white city. Then it was designed to be this way. And so they don't need a lot of black people. Keep them down low. So they didn't care about one more little black child.
One more 17-year-old, young, very young little black child whose family are still grieving and still going through the process of trying to get justice just to find out the truth as to how he lost his life. So
my daughter, all she wants is the truth. I want change. That's what I'm fighting for, change.
You want change of what? What change are you looking for?
I want the police, first of all, them to get rid of the bad.
Are you there, Donna? Hello, Donna, are you there? Are you okay? Can you hear me? We seem to have lost Donna. Whether she's lost the life on her phone or she's lost the battery, but just bear with me, just a few moments. We're gonna try and get her back. Stay with me on the line. I won't be long. We're just gonna call her right back. Woohoo. Hi, Donna.
Hello.
Sorry, we lost you. We lost you, but that's okay.
Yeah, can you?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, then we on my computer.
Okay. You just carry on telling your story as you were.
I was saying that this city has a lot of bad apples, and they refuse to do anything about it. You know, when we first had this happen to us, we was invited to the mayor's office, Now keep this in mind. This is a predominantly white city. And when we went to the mayor's office, the only white person there was him and our lawyer. We were surrounded by black people, and we all kept wondering, where did he find all these black people at? He must have went from floor to floor looking for black people just to sit around with us. And when we left the mayor's office, we didn't get nothing out of it. Nothing, a waste of time. They lied to us from day one. My daughter went to the DA. The DA said, I had somebody in the autopsy room, and he was not shot 12 times in the back. It was 3 times in the chest. When we got the death certificate, we found there was 2 in the chest, 1 in the head. So they lied to us from the very beginning.
How obviously, you've been working with a lot of other women as well, who have a very similar story to tell, as you have. How difficult is this process, trying to get the truth about how a loved one was taken when there is a cop involved?
Virtually impossible. If you can get and sue in federal court, you can get a federal judge to try, and I use the word loosely, try to get you the information. It's not that easy to get that information. They do whatever they can to hide it.
Before we went live, me and you were talking about hope, right? Hope that people that were listening to this show might hope that they can get justice or truth for the loss of their loved ones. Some of them have been trying for years. So what have you tried? What avenues have you gone down in the pursuit of truth? What have been your major challenges?
Getting people to listen. What we're working on now is changing some of our political figures, like our district attorney, prosecutor, whatever they might want to call them. We're working to change those people. We have a campaign called Feet to Fire. We work with Yolanda McNair, and like I said, we're working to get rid of these DAs because they're the one that protect our police. They work with them. They should not be the one that prosecute them. They work with them. They need them in order to do their job, so they're gonna protect them. And we have another little thing that we're going to be doing on Mother's Day. It's called the Poster Board Campaign. And we've been fighting to get this all over the country. And we're going to do this quarterly. And we're going to put up posters, whatever. I told my family, make it personal. Then we're going to put them up on light posts and everywhere just to let the masses know this is what's happening. This is how we feel. Pay attention.
I'm just wondering, we talked about Andrew Hurst turning up uninvited because his wife is a 911. You just mentioned the fact that, you've got the forces that investigate one another or do their reports, etc. So they find some commonality, some common ground in order to protect each other with this thin blue line. But when you imagine the situation as it is, you've got an officer who turns up uninvited to a scene where there's already sufficient officers to do with a one man who they were looking for. He turns out to be the only person that opens fire after claiming he saw what he thought he saw was the suspect reaching for his waistband, which made him convinced that he was reaching for a weapon, and not only was his life, but the life of his colleagues and fellow officers were in danger. So once the scene has been secured, Quannas has now been shot, dead, handcuffed. They've not even bothered to try to resuscitate him. Surely this one officer, the next point of call is this one officer needs to be taken away and a whole investigation done. And the first question is to be, what are you doing here?
I would have thought, and somebody should have told me, let's do a urinalysis. Let's drug test you. Make sure everything's all right with you. But None of this is done.
So, what sort of investigation, if any, was done on this particular uninvited guest to the gun party?
According to the grand jury transcript, I don't believe anything. He talked and said what he was gonna say. They had the medical examiner give his report, and all the other officers saying what they seen and they believe they seen, and what they said at the gun party. But really, I don't believe it was really an investigation. Why would they investigate each other? They ain't supposed to have each other's back. So why would they?
But you would expect the law to have integrity. Is that what you were raised to believe?
No, I wasn't raised to believe this. I'm a black person in the United States. I was not raised to believe that. We knew a long time that black people didn't have anything in this state, in this country. We're now that we're not slaves, we're really not needed.
Wow. So the
the
evaluation of yourselves as a United States citizen is devalued based on how you think they treat you.
Yeah, we are devalued. We are. You see us living in poverty. They're not trying to make anything. I have a person that was trying to open a store, black person trying to open a store. They did everything they possibly could to keep him from opening the store. He lives by public housing. He needs to have the food stamp machine. They did everything they possibly could to keep him from having it. And he couldn't stay in business over here without it. It's public housing. So no, they don't care about black people in this country. Obama was, that we didn't vote for Obama. The Electoral College did. They wanted this country to have a facelift, and he was just a facelift. We got a new chief of police, black woman, pretty black woman. All she was ever was a spokesperson for Oakland Police. She would never did any type of police job, but stand there and tell lies about people's family. She's our chief of police now. I want to know what type. She don't have anything to say that she could be a chief of police. So no, they don't care about us.
So, even from the get-go, you've never really had any hope that real justice will prevail in this particular matter?
No, as a child, I was taught to put my hands up so they could see it. So in turn, I can teach my children, and my children teach my grandchildren, and my grandchildren going to teach their children. Until we get something in here that makes us equal, we're going to go through this.
Now, on February the 9th, 2018 was the first anniversary of Quannas Hayes' execution by law enforcement officers. And I believe many people turned out in order to support that vigil, that protest, that gathering. Tell us a bit about what happened on that day.
We had a community. We're talking about this our last vigil.
Yes.
We had a community that came out. They came out and supported us from the vigil to our protest. Our protest, we went to the police station that our hearse is out of, and they locked it. They closed it that day. Now there was police there, but they kept the doors locked so nobody can go in. But we had a community out there. We had people that supported us. and that care, and most of them were white. Cause I mean, I don't even. Black people are so beat down in this city that they don't support other black people. So
there was even white kids that came out.
Yeah, we had children. We had children. They was out chalky. My grandkids, other grandkids came. We had a PA system where we could talk. The children talk, but people supported us, and I thank God for that support. We needed that support, so we won't feel like we're in this all alone.
So your daughter has now got a solicitor, a lawyer to support her.
Yes.
What direction is that investigation taking? What are you hoping to accomplish at this time now?
Well, I'm hoping what she hopes. She wants to get information on what happened to her son. Reality, me and her work in two different realms. We agreed the day after my grandson was killed that she would work a legal end and I would work the fighting end. So, we share a little bit of information, but we both stay out of each other's lane. So all I know is they served the city with an intent to sue.
Looking at some of the quotes, if, as the family says, is true and the kid was on his knees and unarmed, why wasn't the evidence of these facts brought to the grand jury? Did someone witness him on his knees? Did the cops plant a toy gun? I will have to assume the police officer just wanted to shoot a black kid. This presumption that cops kill people for no reason makes me sick. And the family trying to make a dime off their criminal son is showing us the worst America has to offer. I will be in the courtroom if this civil case has any legs. I cannot wait to laugh out loud. There have been some pretty horrible responses in the media to you trying to get the truth.
I know it. That's been from day one, that media people, they don't have nothing else to do but sit there and say, we just, that same year, had some white supremacists kill some people on our MAX train. So we have a lot of white supremacists here. So we're going to hear a whole lot of stuff. We have a woman that's in our group that her son was killed by a white supremacist, ran him over with a car. And we still waiting on him to go to trial.
There's one response.
We have a lot.
There's one
things like that.
Yeah, there's one response that I like very much, and it goes as follows. Since when are we guilty before we go to trial? Do you not read what you are writing? And this is in response to some of the responses that are on this thread here. Did you forget our constitutional rights? That's the first problem. You can be ignorant if you want. Pinning a guilty pleas on someone without a jury is absurd. Shame on all of you. Second, I would suggest if you're going to comment on a case, then you read the grand jury testimony yourself. If you had read it, you would know he had his hands up. He was on his knees. The toy gun was found in a flower bed away from him. This is why I hate reading this BS comments, because you made all the right decisions, right? Adam, so she's talking about somebody in particular who made a comment on this. You did too. He was 17, for God's sake. Good or bad, he should be allowed the chance to right his wrongs. If you think your children are safe, you're wrong. Our children are not safe on the streets in America with police with guns, are they?
No. The child in California, Stephon Clark, he jumping over his own grandmother's fence when they shot him in the back. Then the police lied and said that he was facing them, looked like he was coming at them with a gun, but he was shot in the back. He can't be coming at you unless he back into you with a gun. So no, our children are not safe. And and our white families, they know that it's what they call the trickle down. They killing us, and you just happen to be in the way, you get killed too. We have, and this is something I worry about in this country, because black women and people have a great support system when their children are killed. Great support system. And because it's not, our white children are getting killed too, they don't have the same support system. So I reach out to them too, because they need support. Having your loved one killed it's a horrible thing. We have a young lady just coming into our fold that they want to label the police. Our press has labeled him as a white supremacist, and I don't care if he was or wasn't. He shouldn't have lost his life like that. They came into a homeless shelter and did a summary execution. 7 police officers shot that man. They claim he had a knife. If he had a knife, he was over in the corner. He was not close to them. They could have did some negotiation with him, but instead
they could have used a taser.
They could have did a whole lot of things, and it's on film, and I guarantee you that them 7 police officers gonna walk away. Are you there?
I'm here. The one thing that really concerns me is the amount of unlawful killings, questionable killings that are taking place in the United States of America, and the lack of consequences that we're seeing for it. Is there a rise in anger? Is there a rise in reform? What do you think needs to happen? Hey.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I have a cat, and she'll do things to try to ruin me.
Did your cat just cut off our call?
Yeah, she come up on the computer. She thinking I'm spending too much time with you and not with her.
Oh, the poor cat. Well, look, we've probably got about half an hour left of the show to go. So tell the cat I'm really, really sorry, but we're going to be done real soon, and she's going to be able to get all the attention she needs there. But
she'll get over it.
Yeah, looking at what we're talking about. So we have a lot of unarmed, innocent individuals being shot dead by police, and we're seeing very little consequence, even investigatory consequence for those who are doing the shooting and the killing. What do you think needs to happen to start making the community trust the police again?
You know what? That's a lot. I know one thing. I listened to our police chief say one of the dumbest things in the world to me. She said she was going to put more police out there so we can get to know them. And I told her personally, that's the dumbest stuff I ever heard. I said, we don't want them in our community like that. And they need to get to know us. If police got to know us, I believe it would be less killing. We have a gentleman that was special. Just as special as he want to be. And everybody in the neighborhood knew he was special, except the police, before they killed him. If you know somebody, if they knew that this person is mentally challenged, they wouldn't shoot that person mentally challenged. But they don't know who they are. They just come into the neighborhood, guns drawn and ready to shoot. I think, first of all, get to know the people. Get rid of the bad apples, and then get to know the people. You need better training. You get more training to be a hairdresser than it does to be a police officer. All you need is a high school diploma to be a police officer. And they give you a badge and tell you go out there into the world and protect the people. And they don't. They protect themselves. It's quite a few things that they can do. But I know one thing, they need to get to know us. I don't want them in our schools. They shouldn't put police in schools. let's see what else they can do. They can get, like I say, better training, de-escalation. And and I think they should care about a person before they go out there doing things. If you don't care about a person, you're going to do things to them. They don't look at you as human. They look at you as suspect. Look at us as human beings.
You made a point just a very short while ago, Donna, and I just want to take you up on that point. You used the word de-escalation. We're seeing very little de-escalation when police are arriving at a volatile situation, whether the person is armed, intoxicated, under influence of drugs, or going through a mental health related issue. We see very little de-escalation. We see very little experience or expertise in trying to de-escalate a situation. What we often see is police going in there, guns firing first.
Yes.
So what sort of training do you think these officers have had, and what sort of training do you think that they need if we are to be able to see that balance shift?
Okay, just to give you an example, we have what they call a DOJ, Department of Justice Settlement Agreement, because Portland been known for killing our special people, our mentally challenged people. Okay, and I was sitting at the hearing, and they was talking about all the different de-escalation training that they have had. Okay, but they're not putting it to use, because just recently they did a summary execution of a man in a homeless shelter. And this is while they're doing their training. What's the use of having training if you don't use it?
Absolutely.
So they claim they have the training. I actually, when I was able to get somebody to answer the question, because they paranoid of me, and I'm telling, everybody I'm talking to, I'm not suing the city. My daughter is, okay? So you can talk to me. So I'm asking them, can I get like the syllabus of the training? I want to know exactly what they're teaching people. Well, needless to say, I never got the complete answer. I got some half answer and a place that I can look and get half of information. I want to know what they're teaching.
If they had taught de-escalation appropriately, then the situation involving Quanis, as he exited the alcove, would have been managed a lot differently.
It would have. Somebody would have talked to that boy. Somebody would have calmed that boy down instead of having him live in fear.
And here's the thing for me, because the accountability, the responsibility has to be with the acting sergeant, who should have had control of his officers in that area, commanding, controlling, advising, and instructing. And somebody should have been saying, hang on a minute, because have you ever been in a room when it's full of people and everybody's talking at the same time? You don't know who to listen to. You don't know which conversation to take part in. So you imagine a young boy who is caught up in the middle of this thing, and you got 17 guys with guns pointing at you, and you know, because you heard a history of people being shot dead by police, so you know a gun's going to take off any minute now, right? But you got 17 guys shouting orders and instructions at you, and you don't know which one to listen to. Surely somebody should have taken responsibility and say, hang on a minute, guys, one at a time. Young man, get your hands in the air, young man, or whatever. So why is the investigation not even looking at the one who should have been controlling the whole crime scene?
Because Portland has a history of that. The Independent Review Board puts out a book every year, and one of the things they talk about is the person in charge needs to take charge, and they don't have that. The person who's supposed to be in charge let everybody run wild. And instead of the person does want to dish out orders and say, hey, you're going to do this. We're going to do it this way. We're going to do it that way. They don't work that way. I don't believe they was trained well enough to be the leader.
You see, forgive me, because Andrew Hurst did a terrible thing. But for me, Andrew Hurst ain't totally the villain here. Because whoever was in control of that situation, whoever was in control of that team, whoever was in control of that scene, should have told him to stand down if he wasn't part of the party. And if they didn't tell him,
told him to get back in the car.
Yeah,
that's what they should.
They should have told him to stand down, put your gun down. We got this, right? This is our call, right? And then, you know, we often see TV programs where the commander says nobody open fire until I give the order. So the control, the authority, the responsibility comes with the person who's leading. Right? I have an issue in my workplace. They don't go and challenge or question my team member. They come and challenge me. I'm the team leader. I run the area. So if something goes wrong, they don't go to one of my team members and say, well, why did you do this? They come to me and they say, how did this happen? And it's up for me to give the response and take the responsibility. So Qantas's life being taken by Andrew Hurst is a very sad thing indeed. And Andrew Hurst did a very bad thing by being an uninvited guest who ended up firing that gun. But I would be aiming my investigation, I would be aiming my response at the person that should have had the responsibility for managing that scene and the team that were there to respond to what they thought was an armed individual who had been in pursuit of a criminal offence. Now, why has the officer, the sergeant, not been questioned? Because that's where the investigation needs to start for me.
You know this, I know this. But you know, we look at a lot of the TV investigation. That's just a bunch of crap. That's not how it ran in the real world. In the real world, this is what they do. I have been in situations where the police that ran up on us and all you heard was shouting in the background. You didn't hear any leader, just a whole bunch of shouting. And I know all I did was just sit on the curb, put my hands up. Whatever they wanted to do, they could do. But I'm sitting on the curb with my hands up.
And there are many people who have actually surrendered with their hands up and they have still been shot.
Yes. Yes.
And it's quite evident that Qantas had his hands up, or he was in surrender. So, why was the officer so convinced that Qantas was reaching for his waistband? No one else witnessed or gave evidence that Qantas was reaching for his waistband. And the in-charge officer, sergeant, hasn't actually said that he's given the order. Because I would imagine that there would be some sort of a brief. Even as they're going out on the radio, you know, young guy hiding out or whatever, there'd have been some sort of a brief. I'm struggling to understand as to how so many officers surrounded the one young man and only one shot was fired.
That's it. And that's one of the things that they're fighting to get, the 911 tapes. You get the 911 tapes, not just from the 911 to the people, but from the people to each other. The 911 tapes tell a whole different story if you actually get an opportunity to listen to one. So this is one of the things I know she's waiting on.
So how difficult a job is that turning out to be, getting hold of these tapes?
All of it's a difficult job. It was a difficult job just finding out he was dead. So the rest of it is going to be even harder.
Do you know, Donna, we've talked a lot about how this has affected you, and we've heard your emotion throughout the entire show. But how has his mother managed with all of this since losing her son?
Just like most mothers, today might be a good day. Most days you wake up and you're in tears. We have a mother that's her son been dead 6 years, and you would thought her son was just got killed a week ago. So they all go through the same thing. I'm emotional about it. My daughter is probably 3 times as emotional.
You know, I've had on the show previously some very strong women. Yolanda McNair was absolutely awesome, and when we had Donna Chizese, we had them all on the same show, and we had Yolanda on her own. But they've also often mentioned just how much you've been there for them, and how you reached out to them. How do you manage to support so many others while you're still going through such a difficult thing yourself?
You know what? My whole thing is I understand, and I don't want to see the next person suffer the way I did. The first, I'm going to say, few months, all I did was cry. My children wouldn't involve me in anything because all I did was cry. And I don't want to see nobody else suffer like that. I want to tell people that, you know what, this is what you can do. This is how you can do this. And now I have learned to take my anger and use it to not only help others, but to help myself. When I'm feeling really, really bad, I feel like I need to reach out to somebody. And so that's what I do.
So do you find strength in supporting others who are going through the same thing that you're going through?
Yes. Yes, I do. It keeps me from falling apart because I feel I have to be strong for somebody else. Because if I'm left alone with my own, I'm tore up from the floor up. I'm just destroyed. So the only way to keep me from falling apart is to reach out to somebody else and help them, keep them from falling apart. And that keeps me and them both from falling apart.
Tell us a little bit about some of the groups that you're working with.
I work with some beautiful women. Our leader, Irene Kalanji, her son was Christopher Kalanji. They killed that. They did a summary execution of a boy sitting in the window in his underwear to show that he had no guns, no weapons. And they killed him, and they left him laying on the floor to die. And their thing was that they let him bleed out. Instead of calling the ambulance, they let that child bleed out. So this was a strong woman that reached out to me. And then she took me to another woman named Shiloh Phelps, and her son was Brody Phelps. And this is a fighting woman. She the one came up with the poster board campaign. This is one woman that will fight and has been fighting for her son since her son died. And these two women keep me strong. And we have another woman who I love dearly, that's Shelly Morgan. She's the person that's a nurturer. She's the one that when you're feeling bad, she'll make you feel better. So there's a few other women that we work with, and we started gaining more. I like to call her the glue. She hasn't lost anyone, but you wouldn't believe she hadn't lost anyone because she is there for us, and she will fight. I believe get out in the dirt and fight somebody about us. Marie, and she is just awesome. So I work with an awesome group of women that have my mother standing here. I forgot she's one of these women that fight. She's the great grandmother of Quanah, and I like to call her a warrior. She like to get up in police face and just show them how she feel about anything. But like I say, I'm around a great bunch of women that we keep each other strong. We're there for each other when we need it, and we try to be there for others. And we just started this little group that's growing because the police have started killing. And one of the things that we trying to find out exactly what we do. And I know, like I told them, I want to be a first responder. I want to reach out to people. And like I say, each one has their own separate talent. And we're not walking all over each other with our own talents. And it's a great group. And we're getting known. That's the great part about it. I'm finding out people know us, say our name, Pacific Northwest Family Circle, and they say, I heard of you. So we're getting out there. They actually got the governor to sign a law that's been working. They've been working on it for 30 years. And the Pacific Northwest Family Circle got involved, and they just signed it where the grand jury transcripts, they have to be recorded. There's no more grand jury, and you don't know what's going on. All of it has to be recorded. So I work with a great bunch of women, and they all have loss, so they understand the loss.
And loss is what we're talking about again as we revisit the execution of Quannas Hayes on the 9th of February 2017 on a day in Portland that you guys will never forget. And obviously, because of this, you'll never be the same again. Have you found yourself working with other organizations across the state?
Yeah. You know what? One thing my mother drills into each one of our heads is there's power in numbers. So we work with other groups to try to work at getting the change. One of our major group we work with is called Surge, and they are a bunch of young people, and they help so much. They're helping on fundraisers. They're helping on when we go out to Feed the Fire. They're out there campaigning with us, and they research for us. So we got groups that's coming. We're coming together with other groups. That's what we need to do.
It's been a long, hard battle this last 12 months. And it's quite obvious that this is still pretty fresh in the hearts of Quannas' family. How have the children, how have his siblings, how have they been impacted by his loss, the way his life was taken?
Well, his sister cries a lot, and the whole family, we're not sure how to help her as in her grieving process. We got his little brothers, one is 5 and one is 4. They're grieving in their own little way. They often ask, and this is a hard question when they ask, is Moose coming back? They ask this every once in a while. They ask us, is Moose coming back? They miss their brother. They miss him. The 1-year-old and the 5-month-old, they'll never have the joy of their protector because he's gone. And all they'll have is our stories.
I hope that you're going to carry on telling these stories for many years to come.
We will. They're funny.
I do know that you guys have some events planned out. Do you have any more events planned for the near future?
Well, today we have the young lady, her name is Kendra James. We're having her vigil. She's been dead since 2010, I believe. And we have hers today. And then we have on the 12th, we're going to do something with Quannas and a rally with him. And later on that night, we're going to a vigil for Keaton Otis, and we have that on. Normally, we have it on the 12th of every month. His father died of a broken heart, and he was doing it every month for his son. And now it is the year that we have to do it. This is his yearly vigil. We're going to be doing on the 12th. And I'm not sure exactly what day we have to talk to Yolanda about that when we have our Feet to Fire campaign. And on the 10th, we're having our poster board campaign, Mother's Day poster board campaign. We plan on putting posters up in all the cities that have mothers that have lost their children to police violence, fathers, sisters, brothers, and we're going to post posters up in our cities telling how we feel. I have one that says peace and stop killing our kids, and we're going to post things up like that. Mine's going to have a picture on every one of mine of Quanah, so they'll know who it is. And here in this state, to keep it from sounding like graffiti, we draw pictures on it, and it's art. And then they can't call it graffiti and fine us for our posting it.
So
we always we got Shiloh on the 25th. It's her vigil for her son, and we have another vigil for Terrell Johnson on the 10th.
And if people wanted to find you, are there any websites or Facebook pages that they can search for you from?
You can, all you have to Google is Pacific Northwest Family Circle. You'll find all our events on that page, on our webpage. You can also find us under the same name on Facebook.
Okay. And also post Protect Our Stolen Treasures.
Yes, you can find that. I believe they have a web page also, and you can find them on Facebook too.
Okay, so...
And I believe that's a valuable organization too.
So if you were to want to leave people with a positive message, anybody listening to this story who is going through something as similar as you have been through, what words of comfort and encouragement would you give them right now?
Tell them they're not alone. You got people who understand. They can contact us, and we'll work with you. We'll work for you. We'll send you to places that will work for you or work with you. Just let us know, and just know there are people out here are outraged, so they got our backs.
Well, Donna, I just want to thank you very much for sharing your story of Quanah Hayes and his execution, and I hope that it's given you some peace and some comfort in order to be able to have got it out there. The world will hear the story as we post it worldwide through World Jam Global Radio and this program Issues Today. We thank you and your family for sharing that with us, trusting with us to share it. And we look forward to doing some more work with you in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I needed someone to hear this. Thank you.
Well, hear it today we have. Thank you very much, Donna. And we'll speak again real soon. I think we're out of here now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Sunday, May 27, 2018, GDS Entertainment proudly presents
Grooving on the Hudson.
That's right, Grooving on the Hudson Memorial Weekend Celebration. Music played by Road International, Selector Oxtail alongside King Shiloh International. All aboard the elegant Paddle Wheel Queens, One World's Fair Marina. Boarding 6 p.m. sharp from Flushing, Queens, certified Shea Stadium. And Miss Marina will be selling 7 p.m. sharp. Also,
For tickets, People's Choice Furniture, Bronx, New York. Doris Restaurant, Queens, New York. G's Restaurant, Queens, New York.
Also,
WorldGymGlobal.com.
Also, complimentary dinner prize and surprises.
Come party with us.
Sailing on a summer breeze.
1,
1, 2, 3, swing it.
Do you have an old sound tape or your favorite cassette tape that you want converted to CD or MP3 format? Do you need a demo CD, radio ad, a DJ or even a sound system for your wedding, birthday or special occasion? Then why not get in contact with KTR Records on 07931 152 448 or check out our website on www.ktrrecords.com. We have been in business since 2004 and also undertake community projects. So for your remixes, duplets and all your sound editing needs, why not contact KTR Records, official sponsor of World Jam Global Radio. KTR Records, coming your way. Imperial Lounge presents an icon.
Reggae dancehall by the beach. To be held at Imperial Lounge, 2 to 14 High Street, Margate Seafront, Kent, CT9 180. To be held on the first Saturday of each month. Your host DJ Matt. Also rotated DJs, Roddy Boone, DJ Happy,
and Younger General.
Doors open 8 p.m. till late. Free entry all night. Music policy, reggae, dancehall, and a touch of soul. On the first Saturday of each month.
Reggae dancehall by the beach.
At the Imperial Lounge Margate. Do remember you can also get VIP and Shisha booking. More info on the World Jam Global website. That's www.worldjamglobal.com. Also www.imperialloungemargate.co.uk.
See you there. Do you like music like this?
Great music all the time.
Or like this?
The music you love.
Maybe this.
Great music that makes you want to turn up the volume loud.
Or life track like this.
Especially where human life is concerned. Surely, sooner or later, people will realize that lives actually matter.
Then you're in the right place. Keep it locked to World Jam Global, where music is harmony.
Music 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Yeah, you're my World Jam. Hotter than them.
See live schedule.
It's inspiring and uplifting, and it feels good to my soul. I start my Sunday mornings listening to Dr. Feel Good's Wake Up Everybody Sunday Gospel Show, exclusively on World Jam Global Radio, where music is harmony.
Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Already did my time, I paid for my crime. Back in the day, I didn't really care about the system. It was all about survival. It was do or die. I had too many rivals. I was too young and foolish to stay in school. I learned my lessons in the streets. There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I had girls all over the street. I was getting money. Life was so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man. Don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about beating no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail.
That was another story.
Trying to cope with this living
from police brutality.
I paid for my crime.
Our guest was Donna Hayes.
My time. I paid for my crime.
Talking about the execution of
already did my time.
Juanis Hayes.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I
Don't forget, you can join me tomorrow morning for another Wake Up Everybody Sunday Gospel Show where Dr. Feelgood comes alive. It's the gospel. Tomorrow morning's theme is Let It Rain, Let It Rain.
Doing all kind of stupid shit.
Join me next week where my guest will be Greg Greer.
I've gotten older. The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again.
And we're going to be looking at the outcome of the story of Alton Sterling. That's next Saturday on Issues Today, World Jam Global Radio. Join me right here on World Jam Global Radio, Issues Today, where everything is live.
Like a real alligator, especially all you haters.
Want to thank my guest, Donna Hayes, and all the listeners from across the globe. I want to thank you all for joining us and being with us.
Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time.
But it's that time of the night, we're out of here.
Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time. Pay for my crime, pay for my